Happy Forum Friday, Tom. We're back on schedule after a little bit of a break. I was off to Florida. Tom had some other issues to take care of, and now we're back in form, as they say in horse racing.
For a couple weeks, and then we then we disappear again. I'm going to do my workout and go to spring training. So we'll miss a couple of Fridays in there because of travel, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'll also be heading down to Oaklawn in the middle of April for tax day, right around there. So if you're at Oaklawn, make sure you stop by for the Apple Blossom. It'll be fun. I'm going to play golf with Vic Stauffer. We're going to videotape that. Have a little bit of handicapping contest to go along with the handicap contest in golf. It should be a lot of fun. Then we'll videotape some great stuff around Oaklawn Park, around that Apple Blossom weekend. So more great content coming. Getting the Florida trip stuff started, but unfortunately, I can't get my phone to transfer the data to my computer. Any suggestions, Tom?
Yeah. Send yourself an email or send yourself a message and attach it to it.
So straight from the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that as well. So let me look into how to do that. But today, for tomorrow, we're going to do Wolverhampton. So tell us a little bit about that Wolverhampton track, Tom.
This is one of the all-weather tracks out that's in England. This is a track that has had all weather for a while, and they've also switched. The current one is the Tapeta, which seems to be the one in favor, but they had a fiber sand at one point, and then they had a poly track too, and they've replaced it. But I think this is the one of the better surfaces personally.
The Tapeta,
and it seems to be forgiving. The one race that we're doing, a 7 furlong event, is a very interesting race because it comes out of a little chute, takes a turn, then you got to go around and take the next turn and then head for home. So it's not your traditional 7 furlong type race. Think of it more like Charlestown.
Like a bull ring.
Yeah, think of it as a bull ring type of run. But they offer a good bit of racing. I mean, it's not going to be your top quality, but it's certainly good enough. And over the years, as the surface has become more usable, so to speak, for people, you'll see the John Gosdens and those people of the world run their horses, as the spring starts to get closer at this track because they want to get a race into the horse or whatever, and even they're not necessarily looking to win, even though they do sometimes. But the bigger thing is, why not? I mean, if you got a horse that's fit,
go cash a check.
Yeah, get them to run there, and our tracks here that we have that are all weather, kind of a mixed bag. Where theirs are pretty consistently. There's a couple, and they're all pretty interesting, different things happen at. And then there are, of course, the infamous horses for courses.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to start with race number 1, which is the amateur Jockeys handicap. This one is a 1.5 miles or 142 yards on the all-weather track, as you mentioned. So we'll pull up what the track looks like. At 1.42 miles, it looks like we're going to start like right about here, I'm guessing, right? Is that about it?
Yeah.
No, right here. We're going to start right here. 1.42 miles, right there. Exactly. So we're going to make a little more than a full trip around the track. Or they're going to come around this way, right, Tom? They go the right way.
They go the American way.
So they're going to start here. They're going to go around and come back around. They come back and finish. So a little bit more than one trip around the track. Is that sound about right to you?
That's correct.
So you call it the American way. I call it the right way, Thomas. All right. So we get a sense of what it's going to look like in terms of how they're going to run. Let's see who Tom likes to start off the first Forum Friday in a little while.
Well, we should also point out this is an amateur jockey race.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of them in here that have never won a race. Being the horse has, but the rider hasn't. With that, I took number 3, Luna Magic, as my top choice with draw 7. I had a nice third last time out. Was run at this distance in the last 3 times and keeps showing improvement. Has 4 wins at this level and has also won at this race course. But her last wins are in May and August, so a little bit of time there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at 7 furlongs and 8 furlongs, so a bit of a difference in distance. I think it's a nice spot for a win. And this rider that's up, she's the most experienced. She has 17 wins. So she's the most experienced rider, and Archie Watson generally trains pretty good horses.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Burrows Tins Flair is going to be the next choice.
So that's the number 4, but number 2 post.
Yeah, number 2 post.
Mm-hmm.
And this one won 3 races, and by not much.
Mm-hmm.
Nose, head, and 3/4 of a length. And these all were over a mile. There's one at this level 5 times, and one at this course 3 times. And it's one at this distance at 3 times. So I think that's the horse to beat. And the rider has 11 rides, but she's never won. So maybe here.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I'm going to take number 8, Inexplicable, who has draw 8 too. And with his last 3 races, really haven't been much of anything special, just okay runs. But if there's a horse for a course, maybe this one. It's not okay, and given the level. 23 starts, has 6 wins and 3 placings. So not a high percentage, but certainly a better percentage than some of the other horses in this field. At this distance, it has 14 starts, 5 wins and 2 placings. But even at this level, it's done pretty good. So, it's in November, December, ran first year, was a favorite. It's done, they got a third. It'll be interesting to see. Because you got to pick somebody in there and a little bit of a price, but not much. Ryder has 7 starts in the career and 1 win. So again, it is definitely the definition of an amateur rider.
Yes, indeed. So I've been working on some other stuff, Tom, that we've been doing on the Daily Show for American Tracks, where we do some simulation. So I decided today, as we come back, to do something a little bit different. I just went ahead and simulated 1,000 races off of some of the data provided by the websites there to put together rankings based upon the simulations, and then put them in the order of the lowest odds to the highest. So the ones that it said were the most likely to win will be first ranked, second most likely to win, second ranked, and so on. So for me, the first pick in the simulation was Luna Magic. How about that? This is the same place that you started, Tom, at 11-1. The next one for me, though, this kind of shocked me when I went back and looked at the odds afterwards. Number 2, Kingston, ends up as the second choice according to the simulations at 100-1. So I hope that the simulations are working correctly. I should note, too, that this race will start about 12:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow on Saturday, the 11th of February. The third rated horse was number 7, Eberry, at 8-1. And then finally, we're going to close it out with number 9, Auto Oil. So if the simulation works, and I can tell you that we've been working on this over there, Tom, with the, like I said, the American tracks on the horse racing show at Parks, Gulfstream, Aqueduct, and some of the other tracks here. And it's pretty damn accurate. I had one last night at Charlestown. I did a contest. It was the last race. The horse was 15-1 morning line. It said the fair odds were closer to 4-1. It went off at 26-1. And it won. So let's see if we can perhaps find some of that same magic over in England. But I haven't forgotten. My favorite part of doing races in England is the predictor. So let's see what the predictor has to say. All right. So this looks like night racing over there, huh? So here they go down the stretch, and bam, the winner is Broughton's Flair is the winner, followed by, looks like Inexplicable, and then Eberry. None of my horses have made it in there. So Eberry is the only one that's in there. I don't see Kingston anywhere. He ain't even on the screen, Thomas.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad or otherwise.
Why not? You roll the dice and you see what happens.
Hey, if it hits, people will be coming back just for the simulated stuff, right? Race number 2 is it's time.
Either that or the predictor.
Either or, right? Something has got to be right. It's either the simulator, the predictor, or Tom. One of the three. Wolverhampton race number 2, which is going to start at approximately 1 o'clock Eastern. This one is a mile and 42 yards, which we just saw again. If we come over here, 1 mile and 42 yards, you're going to start here a little bit more than a full turn around the track, mile and 40 yards. So if we look at, again, Thomas, the field itself, what do you got?
Well, first we should talk about the race, because this is kind of unique. These are the way they do their claiming races.
Mm-hmm.
After this race is run, the winner is auctioned off.
Oh, cool.
And the minimum price is $6,000 on this race. So it a little different than our claiming races.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there's buybacks and whatever you want, but kind of a interesting approach.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Maybe we should head over there and buy one day.
Yeah, instead of dropping a dice in the old bucket and dump it out and see what they get, they do it by an auction.
Cool.
So with that, I took number 2, Lexington Hero, with draw 4 as my top choice. Okay effort first out at Kempton, and it was a maiden race. Never really challenged in the race, but it was a big field, and he beat 7 horses. So, first start, you got to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They paid $16,000, not pounds for this horse, so it's about 18 plus. So some decent, okay money, and I like the first effort. I mean, I think there's enough to suggest that horse will have something to say in this race, and that's why I took it as my top choice. Number 5, Lamia Duccioso is my next choice, and this one got draw 1. Finished 4th last out, about 2 1/4 lengths behind. The best way to describe the horse in this race was at the last 100 yards, it just didn't finish. But again, these are inexperienced horses, and this one is certainly right there. It's had 2 okay efforts and some of them even performances. Maybe get a first win here, but I think it's more of a placing horse, and does have an experienced jockey up, David Probert, so I think that will help. And finally, number 1, Angelus Bell has draw 6, my final. This is one of the only winner in the field that has won on the all-weather surface. The next 2 efforts weren't great, but they weren't awful. Could be worse. And they paid $35,000 for this horse. So yeah, now you win, and you're just going to go for 6. I call that a drop. So, but also you can look at it as if it wins, maybe they're going to do a buyback too. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm going to put that as my third choice.
I'm going to start off with the same horse you started off with, Thomas. Lexington Hero. The simulator says that's the one that's most likely to win. The next up in my list is the 3-horse, Man Made of Smoke, at 11-4. Isn't that kind of like a Spider-Man character? No, I think it was Made of Sand, right?
Made of Sand, I think, yeah.
Yes, indeed. And the final one was the Angelus Bell, which is the 1-horse. So I'm going to go 2, 3, and 1 in race number 2. Let's take a look at what the predictor has to say, Thomas. See if maybe one of my horses shows up this time. Well, that guy's going to win by himself. Look at that. Lexington Hero. That was the one we both had as our top choice. And then Man Made of Smoke. And then it looks like the Angelus Bell. So there you go. Well, Lamia Ducciosa is actually going to be the 3rd place horse, according to the simulator. So we have to keep a track on this and see which one actually is the most accurate, Thomas. If it's qualitative, quantitative, or whatever they're doing at the simulator. The next one on our schedule here is race number 3. This is the Spreadex Sports Get 40 pounds, in bonuses handicap. This one is that 7 furlong race that you talked about, Tom. or they have a peculiar running, and it's going to start back here in this chute, as you mentioned, and then they're going to come around this corner and then back around to the finish line. So how does that start really impact the race going into that turn?
Post position.
So you want to be inside, outside? Probably inside, I'd say.
Inside is the better route, or the middle. The outside ones are definitely at a disadvantage. Unless you've got a late runner, you can tuck in. You can take back and tuck in. But a lot of times, especially at this level, the ones that they hold back and tuck in aren't necessarily going to do much, except get some exercise.
So, a training session.
Yeah. So definitely post position does play a role here, and so you got to take a close look at that. And let's face it, when the turn comes up quick, it's kind of little reminds me of Belmont, some of those turf races where you got a little quick turn, and you better get yourself set in a position, because if you're in one of those races where it's got the slight turn and then another, then the big sweeping turn that Belmont offers you on the turf course.
And I should note this race starts at 5:30 because this is race 5. So we skip races 3 and 4 and move straight to race number 5. So get straight to your thoughts, Thomas.
Sure. Number 5, Wyvern was draw 8. I'm going to take my first choice. Ran 5th, lost by 4 lengths last out, but it was moving the best of all the horses in the race. So at the end, so kind of think maybe it's starting to come to form, and with those odds, some other people do think that too.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah,
he's had 2 races over this course, and he's won one of them, and he placed in the other. At this distance, he's done pretty well. He has 1 win from 3 starts. Post 8 is not ideal, but we'll see what happens. And got an experienced rider, so Jason Hart. And I think if he can figure the horse out, it could be right on top. Number 1, Gobi Sunset is going to be my next choice. It has draw 5. Ran what I would call a very dull 6th out of 6 horses in the last race. It showed a little and then just went the other way. Race before, it had no pace, but closed very strongly to finish 2nd. So the last 2 races were at 6 furlongs. Now we're going to stretch out a little bit to 7. And he's run this before, distance before. He's done okay. He has, but the racetrack is where I really caught my ears. And this is he never won here, but he's got 6 starts and 5 placings. So kind of think he may like that surface, but can't figure out how to get in that first spot. So I think he's good for a piece. I don't think he's good for a win. And number 4, withdraw 4, is Intervention. He was asked by the jockey to go in his last race at the end, and the best he could do was 4th. But in that race, he had some issues early, being that the horse was not settling into a rhythm or a stride that he was comfortable with. So he's fighting the jockey a bit in that. And, let's face it, when a horse does that in a race, generally they use a lot of energy. And especially when you're dealing with horses at this level, that could take enough out of a horse that they don't have much else. So with that, I'm going to think that, maybe it settles a little better and does a nice job. It could be because, it's 2 races before it ran 2nd in both races, and one of them was a class 3. So this is a bit of a drop in terms, and that was in January. The question is he going to misbehave today, or is he going to settle into a nice stride and be able to run well? Very good record over this track. He's got 11 starts, and 3 wins and 4 placings. And at this distance, he's been in the money. He's been in the money 50% of his 14 races, and those 2 of them are wins. Going to add a little distance from the last races, but he's done okay at 7, and I think he's good enough to hit the board. And Jason Watson, get another experienced rider, get him into stride, and see what you got.
According to my simulations there, Thomas, not only is he going to run a good race, it's going to win. He ranked out as the top horse, followed by number 3, Billy Mill at 8-1. Actually has a tip here too, Billy Mill. So looks like one of the punters. What do they call the tipsters over there? Punters, and those are the betters. There's the tipsters.
The betters.
Yes. So Billy Mill does get a tip from the tipster for the punters. Then I have Banging Through as the third choice at 16-1. I kind of hope that one takes home the trophy because that's the nice odds right there. Again, simulation, bunch of data we've been working on. It's been very accurate in the US, so I wanted to try it out and see how it does in the UK. Maybe we can roll it out across the world if we can get it to work, right? And then finally, number 1, Gobi Sunset was my 4th choice in here as well, according to the simulator. Let's see.
Well, part of that for that kind of your system, it may work well on these all-weather type races where it may be a complete bust on an Ascot race where you're going straight down the. So that because you're looking at our races, of course, going around and the infamous clockwise thing that goes on.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow how it works out. I know it's been working pretty well for us on the US. So the simulator says, pow, Intervention is your likely winner, followed really closely by Follow Your Heart. It looks like a battle for the 3rd place spot between Wyvern Banging Through, Aza Jumaya, and Billy Mill. So based upon the projector here, it looks like this is a pretty tight race, Tom, that any one of them can probably win. And it's going to be dependent on race shape and, whether you get boxed in or not. So a clean trip, you got a good shot to win this race, it looks like, according to the predictor. The next race, we're going to see who we think is going to have a good chance to win is race number 6. This is the SCU Selects Expert Tips by BetUK Handicap. This one is 1 mile and 4 furlongs. So 1 mile and 4 furlongs, it looks to me like they're going to start here, 1 mile, 4 furlongs, which 51 yards, a little bit even more. Going to run down around once and then come back around again. Wow, that's a lot of turns. Tom, was that 1, 2, 3 turn race? This is kind of like NASCAR at Bristol or something.
Yeah. But they're not going quite that fast.
No. And I don't want to go there. But in any case, Tom, when you have this race here again, it looks like you're going to go right into a turn quick again. So is the inside position again a key?
Because the length of the race, especially if you have a closer, I don't think you're on the outside. You're just going to tuck in anyways, and get some, for the horses that like to tuck in one, they are herd or pack animals, so you sit in there and then they pull it out when they hit the top of the stretch and see what they've got. But remember they're going to loaf around the first pretty much most of this race until they hit that turn again. Somebody starts to get something going. So we'll see. I'm going to take number 4. Hooves Like Jagger, my top choice.
Instead of Moves Like Jagger?
You never know, right?
Well, there was that song, Moves Like Jagger.
It could be Mick Jagger for all we know.
Yeah, I think that's what it was about. There was a song, I forget it was the guy from the show, Adam Levine. I don't know the name of his band, but they put that song out, Moves Like Jagger. So the Hooves Like Jagger. It's a play on that, I suspect. Anyway.
Maybe. Last 2 races are actually been a longer distance than this race, and he's done okay. Got a 3rd and a 2nd. Went off the favorite in both those races, and the comment was that he didn't have much left at the end. Or another one was didn't have the pace to challenge. Well, maybe the race was just too far. Mm-hmm. Maybe one needs a little shorter race. Well, this is still a long race, but let's face it, it's not that sometimes they don't want to go so far. He's won 4 races from 32 starts, but it's interesting in the stats because 3 of those wins are at this distance. So drop in distance, beaten favorite, better trip means better results. So that'll be my top choice.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Starfighter is going to be my next choice. So it has draw 5. He was asked at the end of the race by the jockey to get going, and he kind of didn't. He finished 6th, so kind of an even effort out. Because it was interesting because the 2 races before, he's got a win, and that was at this track, and then a second. So, not interested in running that day? Maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Horses are like anything else. They decide, well, you hit me with that thing, I'm not going to go anywhere. So, but I think it'll be interesting because they're switching. They've been using apprentice riders on this horse pretty consistently. They're going to switch the apprentices, and the other apprentice had a 7-pound claim. This one has a 5-pound claim. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and it shouldn't hurt any. The other thing to remember is those last 3 races were at this distance.
Mm-hmm.
So he's won in place at this track 4 out of his 7 times, and he has 2 wins. So he does like the track. Maybe toss that last race out and say, let's see if he can return to that other form. My final choice is going to be number 1, Hoofle Pup, which I love the name. Draw number 7.
I wonder it's got to be some meaning to it. Is it?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Sounds like one of those like cartoon characters that kids watch in the mornings. Hufflepuff.
He had a nice string of wins at this track, but then the last 2 races he's run, not so good. One of them was with an amateur jockey, and that individual really lost a better placing in the final 100 yards. So can you dismiss that as an amateur jockey? Possibly. Last race, he went inside. He went a little left. When it was coming in the turn, he decided that, let's lose a few lengths doing that. And really didn't have what I would call a comfortable trip. So I'm kind of going to toss that race.
Mm-hmm.
These races were at a shorter distance than today, and I think he may want a little more length. Because of the past at this distance, he has 21 starts, he has 4 wins and 5 placings. But he's had good success at this level. 19 starts, 7 wins, and 3 placings. With that, I think he's good enough to get 3rd, and that's where I'm putting him.
Well, the simulator says he's good enough to get 1st, Thomas, because that's where it put him. Number 1, Hufflepuff. Number 2, it's the second one on the simulation, Johnny Boom. One gets the second most points, and then we're going to go straight down. It's 1, 2, 3. Starfighter is the 3rd choice. Are we going to go 4, Tom? Hooves Like Jagger? No, we're going to skip Hooves Like Jagger and go to number 5, Uther Pendragon. So 1, 2, 3, and 5 is how the simulator scored them out in terms of the odds. And the 5 horse really a good value according to the 25-1 morning line odds. So maybe that works out like that. We'll find out, but we'll see what the predictor has to say in terms of who's going to score this one with that 3-turn. Wow, 3 turns around the track, and it's going to be a duel at the end, Thomas. Starfighter, Hooves Like Jagger, Crystal Guard, a horse that neither one of us have. Johnny Boom, Hufflepuff, and Under Pendragon, all very close at the wire, according to the predictor. So this race is another one that looks like, what one wasn't in there though? Was my my 25-1 is in there, Under Pendragon. All right, so let's see if it works out that way. A lot of opportunity to score. It looks like here, right? The 10-3, so 3-1 is the closest one. Hooves Like Jagger.
3-1, yeah.
Wide open race again, which is kind of what I like about some of these international races. They are a little bit less to form than what we can find here in the States sometimes. Final race of the day is 1 mile, 1.5 furlongs. It is the BetUK's Acca Club 5-pound free bet handicapping contest. This one's going to go 1 mile and 1.5 furlongs. So the 1 mile, 1.5 furlongs is going to begin right on that turn, Thomas. What in the hell does that do to the race? Well, they're going to come down the front side, so it doesn't really do anything, right?
Yeah. There's plenty. You got the stretches long, and you got plenty of time before you hit the first turn.
Mm-hmm. I would say maybe it might give the outside horses a slight early advantage because they're not turning right away. They can run in a straight line into the front stretch, versus the insides might have to bend a little bit into that turn so they can get shuffled back, I would think.
Yeah, it's more of a top of the stretch type of start. So, there's not much turn involved. It's more of just, you're going to shuffle for positioning, getting as you get to the first turn. And again, like any race, they're going to be dawdling along a little bit at the beginning. So it's just a matter of who wants to lead and who's just going to tuck in and sit and wait.
Try to save some ground. All right, well, who's going to win?
Now, number 1, Zumati with draw 3. After layoff, came back, ran 5th. On the inside, ran in the inside, and really didn't finish. That tells me short of conditioning and needed a race. Better effort, made a better effort before the break. He has a win, his first win, that is, and a second. Tries this distance. One tried this distance and showed nothing. But he has a chance. But my concern with him is the all-weather. I'm not 100% convinced this horse likes the all-weather based on its form. So, but I'm going to put him on top. Other bettors seem to agree with me.
Yeah, that's where the odds maker has it on top too.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting, to say the least. If it comes off that last race and comes into form, I think it's going to be a tough one to beat here. But saying that, though, if you go down and look at the odds in this race, they're pretty competitive. I mean, the first 5 horses are not a heck of a lot of difference in odds, and then it jumps up a bit.
Righto.
Number 2, City Escape, the next choice, draw 1. Last was an average race at best, and finished 5th. Before, though, it won, and it did a good job of keeping the jockey did a good job of keeping the horse going. And so he got the most out of the horse. Now, the question with that is, did that race take too much out of the horse for the next race? Possibly. And that's kind of what way I'm looking at it. So I think a little better opportunity here than the last race. Good race at this distance. Got 15 starts, 4 wins, and 3 placings. He's also done pretty well at this track. The question is really for me, is this the kind of group that he can make a placing in? And based on the odds, people seem to think so, and I do too. My final choice is going to be number 4, Hot Day, with draw 2. The last race, the best way to describe it was he was too far back to really be involved, but he did get 4th. So what I decided that let's just dawdle along here, and then I got interested at the end, kind of a race. But I also may question the distance. Maybe it was a little too far for the horse. And a little shorter distance, maybe a little better effort. He has a second at this distance. He missed by a head. He's hardly a winning machine, but the horse does like to hit the board, and that's all we need when we're playing trifectas or exactas.
Indeed, for sure.
Put him for 4th.
I like in this race, or at least the simulation says, to put City Escape as the top horse in there. Graded out as number 1. The second one is number 3, Mr. McQueen, or just McQueen, Zumati. So the last two races really liking the inside draws, the 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here we got Zumati, and then the 4-horse Hot Day is the final ranking. So 2, 3, 1, and 4 for me. And on the predictor, it says for the final race at Wolverhampton tomorrow, which will go off at about 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And it looks like it's going to be Bang City Escape, the 2-horse, as the leader. And then McQueen looks like it's going to be third. And then it looks like Hot Day is the third place horse. And then it's tough between, it looks like Zumati is fourth. So how about the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the inside? Those are the 4 horses to key on. And that's kind of where the odds stack up to as well, Tom, in terms of what the bookmakers have on there. So that takes us through the first Foreign Friday in a while over at Wolverhampton, my favorite name for a track for sure. It's kind of sounds like one of those Marvel Studio tracks or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Any sense of what might be on tap for us on our next Foreign Friday?
Well, it's the fall down under, and the autumn carnivals are beginning, and there are some Group 1s going to be running, and there's a sprint with Native Strip, the horse that won at Ascot last year, running in one of those races, and definitely a Group 1 race. That'll be one of the races we take a look at. So we'll be down under.
We'll be in the land down under, where we've been doing some work lately. If you're going to bet here in the United States, there's a link in the description below for a guaranteed tip sheet. Make sure you click on that today, on Saturday, on Friday. But every day there's a free track of the day. If you got a horse lover in your family, there's also a link in the description down below for winning touches. You got little kids that want some horse socks, or they want the horse bib because they make a little bit of mess, or you want some jewelry or a plate. Fantastic place to find some hard to find horse racing gifts, winning touches. It is down in the description down below. And also, you'll see now at the bottom of our YouTube channel, you'll see our roster of gear, our merchandise. Make sure you support the show. Pick yourself up a t-shirt, a hat. You can personalize it, make it all what you want it to say. Take the numbers on, take the numbers off, whatever you want to do. But what you can do is help us support the show. Another way you can help out is to follow us on our social sites. You see them scrolling down below: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Horse Race, the number 2 day, Horse Race, the number 2 day. And while you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button if you have not yet. Hit the like button, hit the bell so when we go live, whether it's in the US or on our Foreign Fridays or in our evening shows with Jamie, Julie, and Sean, where we interview guests all across the horse racing universe. It's a great bunch of content that we provide there, Thomas.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts before we step up and out of here on this Friday and look forward to next week?
Should enjoy these races. These are not what you would call the top of the shelf type of races, but they got, they're different horses and they all run at different levels. So sometimes these are the most challenging because the form is just all over the place, and it requires a little more homework.
Indeed. Well, hopefully the simulator did all the homework for me. We'll find out when the races go final for sure. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. And then tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern, myself and Sean will be back to talk a little bit about the big game, because we can't use the words super, bang, 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 I eat cereal out of a bowl without making the really rich people in the NFL unhappy. So we won't talk about that. But we will talk about the game.
You can call it the Super Bowl, because certainly some of those games have been.
Well, that's what people tune in for the commercials for, right? They're not really watching the game. It's a social event. But we'll talk about who we think is going to win. A couple of prop bets in there. It should be a pretty quick show. Again, tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern. So make sure you check that out. On Saturday, February 11th, myself, Charles, and Terry will get together for Golden Gate. We'll go through the entire card there here in the U.S. Another all-weather track. So it's an all-weather Saturday here at Horse Racing Today. Till we get together again, whether it's for football, whether it's for horse racing, or with special guests, we hope that no matter what it is that you do this weekend, it ends up in one place, Thomas, and that's
the only place to end up is in the winner's circle.
Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend.